Ever been in this situation?
When the brand reaches out to me, I don't know what to quote.
That's Gaurav. He's a creator just like you. But like a lot of creators, pricing out brand deals can feel like total guesswork.
Sometimes when I price myself high, I lose a deal. Sometimes price myself too low, I feel like I've been just used.
Sound familiar? The truth is, most creators pick a number out of thin air, or they copy their friends' rates, or they just accept being lowballed because they don't know how to fight back. But we're here to change that. In this video, Gaurav reveals the intimate details of those sponsorships that never made it past the negotiating table. You'll learn the pricing mistake that scares 90% of brands away, why it's not too late to salvage a deal you lost months ago, and the exact words to use when a brand says they don't have the budget. When they ask you those questions about what is your price, how much you charge, what's your rates, you say,
hey, I'm Gaurav, I'm based out of London, and I started my creative journey, I would say 2 years ago on Instagram, and then I expanded on TikTok, and then I grew my newsletter to around 70,000 now, so which is great. I think like overall my audience on Instagram is above just hit 500K like last week, so that's awesome. On TikTok is above 100K and newsletter around 70K-ish. I would say the biggest challenge is like when the brand reaches out to me and I'm like, I don't know what to quote. The second one, when they ask me, oh, what is your pricing? Then I'm like, okay, how do I even go back to that information? Or sometimes they would say like, look, I want you to do X, Y, Z, and then I'm thinking the price they're proposing versus the execution they're asking for me, that just seems not right. And I've been just like reading a lot on like emails, reading a lot on, on website and stuff. There's a bunch of information by different people. There's a bunch of pricing brackets and stuff. And I'm always confused at what is the right one. And sometimes when I price myself high, I lose a deal. Sometimes price myself too low, I feel like I've been just used, quote unquote. I don't know. So for me, it's like finding the right balance, how much I should be charging for the work I'm providing and what does it look right for me, but also for the brand. So I would say that's just me in a nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah, super helpful. So I saw, I was taking a look at your Instagram in particular and saw that you've been doing some partnerships. I think I saw one with Wondershare. The way you do it actually is really cool. Like you have this very unique format where you have like kind of a carousel and you embed videos in there. Really clever the way in which you integrate that. So I'm curious, like the partnerships that you've done to date, have all of those been inbound, or have you been actually reaching out and pitching brands and trying to forge partnerships that way?
100% inbound. I have never reached out to a brand, and I know I'm missing ton of opportunity, especially when I watch your video on PTY. I'm like, oh man, this is like a whole new world of opportunity, which I didn't know that existed. So yeah, so far I would say only inbound.
I mean, it's a good problem to have, right? I mean, it's like people are just banging down your door wanting to pay you, right? It's a good problem to have. I kind of like to, start these conversations, kind of just as a baseline, mentioning that like over the last, decade of my wife and I working with brands and collaborating, yeah, we have our fair share of inbound deal flow, which is great. But it's the deals that we actually went out, we pitched a brand. It was like a perfect, partnership that we felt we could forge. Those were the ones that ultimately led to the more lucrative payday and a longer term relationship, right? Because it was like us reaching out, illustrating how much value we could provide to these brand partners. And so, I think that's like a really, really important factor is like, yeah, it's good to have all this inbound deal flow, but then, and you may have experienced this, that like, there may be like a really busy time, maybe during the holidays, or like, I know you do a lot of like job recruitment type stuff. Like, during the new year, people are like, I hate my job. I want to find a new one. Right. So there's like oftentimes probably a lot of deal flow during certain times of the year, and then you're sitting here thinking like, oh man, like I don't have any deals like for like in my pipeline for the next 3 months. Like better go figure something out, right? And so that's why I like to say it's so important to supplement your inbound deal flow with outbound prospecting and pitching. So you're the recruitment guy that I'm going to help you land a job. So this is going to be easy for you. I have no concern that you'll be able to figure out how to do that. But let's get to the question at hand, which is pricing, right? And I think that this is a really elusive and challenging topic for a lot of creators. And I thought it would be useful to talk first about pricing styles, because there's, in my experience, there's four main pricing styles that creators, will use at various points throughout their creator journey. So the first one is competitive, a competitive pricing style, right? Where you first get into it, maybe you did this, right? Where you started creating content, you saw a little bit of traction, and then that first brand reached out to you and you're like, I don't know how much to charge. So you DM your friend, right? Someone else who's a creator, and be like, hey, how much do you charge? Right? You have roughly the same amount of like followers or whatever I do. Like, how much are you charging for a sponsorship? Right. Or maybe you're Googling or something like that. And so, cause it seems reasonable, right? It's like, okay, well, as long as I can price myself like relatively within some sort of margin of error of like what other people are charging, like hopefully that'll be a good baseline. So first of all, has that something that you've done in the past?
Yeah. Reach out to fellow creators, and then some of them would just say like, oh, I can't share. Or someone would say like, yeah, this is roughly I'm charging. And then you go on, look at the different websites and stuff. But also one of the problems I found with that approach was like the audience, the way you create content is so different. And also you have a different tone of voice, a personality, and how you present yourself as a brand on internet. It could be very different from other people. So I was just doing the mistake. Then I found one creator was charging quite low, and I thought, oh, maybe this is right, I should be doing that. Then I found out other creator similar, like doing similar sort of style than me, was charging 4 times more. I was like, I've been mugged. You know,
the funny thing about that is like, how do you know whether even that other person who's charging 4x is the right price? Like, you maybe the price should be 10x. Like, you really don't, right? So when you use that approach, and you're just kind of copying notes off of your classmate, right? It's like, it's very difficult to know whether that person has the right answer, right? And so that's the first pricing style. The second pricing style is what I call cost plus, right? And this is where a creator thinks, okay, like, this is taking a really long time to actually do these collaborations, right? I got to film the video, I got to prepare it, I got to write captions, I got to do get on calls with the brands. And so like, I want to make sure that I'm at least covering my costs. I want to be making $100 an hour, $500 an hour, whatever it is, some sort of arbitrary number. For a lot of creators, especially, creators that, their content requires them to buy supplies, crafts, materials, like, right? It's like a non-trivial expense to actually do a partnership, right? And so like, this is the approach that a lot of people do, is they figure out their costs and then they add some sort of arbitrary premium to that, right? Okay, my costs are X and I'm going to add 25% of that or something like that, right? But even that is oftentimes a really difficult pricing style to use, because again, you are not necessarily capturing the value that the brand is receiving, right? They may be saying, okay, yeah, like your costs are this, your time and materials and whatever, but like, man, like we were able to repurpose that content. We were able to run paid advertising with it. We were able to do all these other things that would have cost us $100K or $50K or something like that to go out and hire a production company or an ad agency or whatever to do comparable work like that, right? So even cost plus pricing is a difficult one as well. The third pricing style is called dynamic. Okay. And this is where a lot of creators, we were just actually mentioning this, that, a lot of creators change their pricing during different times of the year. So for example, for a lot of creators, they pump up their pricing during the holidays, right? Because every brand wants to run, creator campaigns during the holidays, during Q4, this type of thing, especially if you're kind of a consumer focused creator. And so they say, I'm just going to like raise my prices 2x or 25% or something like that. And the difficult thing with that is that if a brand or especially an agency wants to put you into their budget or put you into their plan for a future campaign, and they come back to you and say, hey, we worked with you a couple months ago, we'd love to slot you in for this holiday campaign. You say, oh, sorry, my rates are 2x. They're now going to throw their hands up and be like, well, Justin changes his rates all the time, so it's not predictable. First of all, it's one thing if your metrics have increased to justify that, right? You're getting a ton more impressions or viewership or whatever. Like, that's one thing. Like, of course, there's justification there. But if you're just arbitrary and saying like, hey, I've got the same, footprint, I'm at the same metrics, and I'm charging 2x now or 50% more, the agency is just gonna be like, sorry, like I can't we're not gonna be able to like work with Gaurav anymore because it's just we can't predict, we can't put him into our plan. If we have to reach out to him every 3 weeks and be like, hey, is your rate still the same? Is your rate still the same? Like, that's annoying. They don't want to do that. So they want to have some level of certainty that they can slot you into their partnerships. And the real like unlock to that idea of like not doing this is that you want them to do that. You want them to put you into their budget, to their plan, so that they just continue to bring you good work. If they know that when they reach out and hire you, that they're going to get great content, you're going to hit deadlines, you're going to be super professional. They want to continue working with you, right? So give them every reason to do that, right? So that's pricing style number 3. And then the final pricing style is what's called merit based. Okay, and this pricing style is based 100% on what the brand feels and believes a partnership with you is worth. And so we get into this topic. We talk about this a lot in my course, Brand Deal Wizard, which is understanding something called your BATNA. Okay. And a BATNA is your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Both you and the brand has a BATNA. So for example, your BATNA is that, if I don't take this deal with this brand, then I have other revenue streams to fall back on, right? I've got affiliate marketing. I've got other brand partnerships. I've got, Patreon, whatever it is in your business. And so I don't need to feel pressured to take this deal if they're not offering a good amount, right? Yeah. Contrast that with the brand's BATNA, which is that, okay, if they didn't hire you, what are their alternatives? If their goal is, let's say, getting some great compelling content that they can repurpose, put it on their Instagram, put it on their website, use it for paid advertising. If they didn't hire you, they have to go out and hire a production company. They have to hire an ad agency, right? And so that's probably going to cost them tens of thousands of dollars, right? Or if the goal is really to like leverage your social footprint and your following, like there's not an infinite supply of people who talk about finding and landing the job that makes you happy and pays you more, right? Which is your tagline, right? Yeah. And so there is a fixed pool, a fixed supply of people like you out there on the internet. Yes, there are others, of course, but it's not infinite, right? And so for whatever reason, they have to decide, okay, are we really going to be willing to forego this partnership with Gaurav over 2K or over 5K or whatever it is? This is like a calculus that's happening in their head. And so I just wanted to start this conversation out by laying out these 4 different pricing styles and talk about why this final pricing style, merit-based, is so critical, because it'll help you unlock this understanding that pricing is very much an art and a science. Every deal you do is going to be priced differently. Okay. So you may have a brand that comes to you for one TikTok or one Instagram carousel or reel or whatever like that. Yeah. For the same exact scope of work, the same exact terms, one carousel, one reel, whatever, you may charge another brand 2x or 3x because that is in alignment with their goal. And so I just wanted to quickly pause there. I know that was a lot. Any thoughts or response to all of that?
No, I love the 4th one, and I love the used term BATNA. And I was also trying to think of I read that BATNA and ZOPA. So what is a zone of potential agreement with the brand, and what's your BATNA? So I really love that phrase, and the fact that you brought that in. And I've done deals where a brand paid me way more for the same execution versus a brand paid me way less. And I was able to identify that because when we got on a call, they said look, this is the best we can do. But if it doesn't work with you, I totally understand. But is there anything else you can slot in? Then I'll throw in the newsletter. Then I said, okay, fine. So in that ways, just knowing what is that zone is really important, because the brand, which is probably, I'm working with a brand which is doing a lot of work with the AI, they're more likely to pay me because they really want to get the voice out, versus a brand which is not in AI. They're not competing in that really growing market. They're more chill. So it's understanding also market trend and stuff like that. So yeah, that was really helpful.
100%. And one other really important piece of advice that I have that's going to massively improve your negotiation leverage is trying to get on a call as often as quickly as possible at the outset of a conversation, because one little kind of hacky trick, not even a trick, it's just like good business, is like you get on a call, you ask all these questions you're talking about, you do your research, you look at their blogs, you look at their press releases, you look at their Instagram, whatever it is, you get an understanding of like what their focuses are for this year. You get on the call and then you ask all these questions, and then at the very end, what happens, right? Typically they'll say something like, okay, give us a ballpark of how much you charge, right? They say something like that, like what's it going to be? Like one Instagram post, like what do you charge, right? And sometimes it feels kind of like you're getting backed into a corner, right? It's like, I don't know, $1,000, $2,000, right? It's like you just like blurt out a number because it feels very uncomfortable. And so here is my advice in those situations. I want you to do something very simple. Okay. When they ask you those questions about what is your price, what is your, how much you charge, what's your rates? And you can do this over email too, by the way, but it's a little bit easier over a call. You say, you do not say, what is your budget? Okay. That's what most creators do, is they say, tell me your budget, because what does that do? That backs the brand into a corner. They now feel like if they say our budget is 20K, how much do you think you're going to charge them for your proposal when you respond to them? It's going to be 20K, right? And so they're going to be like, oh, we have no wiggle room now because we said our number was 20K. And so that is why oftentimes they're coming back to you and saying, hey, well, you tell us, what the number is, right? And so instead of saying, what's your budget? You're going to say this. You're going to say, thank you so much for all this information. It was super helpful. Typically what I like to do is put together a comprehensive proposal that outlines all of the various ways that we can work together. Do you have a sense of, let's say, 3 tiers, what those 3 tiers would look like from a budget feasibility perspective? And then you shut up. You say nothing. You lean into the silence. And what does this do? Is they say, oh, okay, so we can actually give a range. We can say 5, 10, 15K. Or we can say 1, 2, 3K. We can say 50, 100, 150K, right? You never know what they're going to say. But what this allows them to do is have wiggle room to go with that lower range if the campaign structure develops as such that they need to slot you into that lower amount. So one of the things that I talk about a lot is that when a brand is reaching out to you, trying to, in this initial qualification phase where they're trying to ascertain whether they can even partner with you, is that they're also reaching out probably to 9 other creators, not just you, right? And so they have a budget of, let's say, 100K or 200, 500K, $1 million, whatever it is. And they're saying this $1 million or $500,000 has to stretch between all 10 of these creators. Okay. So roughly we're estimating that each creator is going to get, let's say it's 500K, 10 creators, 50K per creator. Like roughly that's what we're looking for, some, like, let's say, macro creators. And so what ends up happening is they reach out to all 10 of the people. 4 people don't get back to them, right, at all. They ghost them, right? Of the 6 people that do respond, let's say 3 of the people are way too much. They're quoting 200K for the deliverables or something like that. And then the remaining 3 that do seem feasible, they're quoting something that's, a little bit more realistic within that budget. And now they realize, like, okay, one person is quoting 150 and one person's quoting 50. So to be able to, like, get this to work with the remaining budget that we have left, we're going to have to go back and choose that lower tier that we quoted to Gaurav. So that's why it's so much better to allow them to give you a range for these proposals that you're putting together, because it'll be easier for them to, what I like to say, Tetris you into their plan, right? They just have to figure out how they can make it work. In my experience, about 75% of the time when you ask that, they will tell you. I've done this across hundreds of conversations. And the remaining 25% of the time, when you ask them that question, they're going to be like, no, you tell us. We don't know. We don't know yet. You tell us, right? And so at that point, that is when you say, okay, no worries. I'll let you know. And then you go back and you put together your proposal. And what I like to say is, with your packages, package 1 has to be your hell yeah number, which means If the brand said, hey, let's go with package one, sounds good, you're not going to be like, oh my God, now I actually have to do this partnership. Oh man, that's such a bummer. I was hoping they wouldn't pick that package, right? And so package one has to be high enough that you would be stoked. You'd be like, all right, yes, boom, I'm stoked about this, right? So it's either hell yeah or no. So that's like kind of the remaining, that's kind of the approach on the remaining 25%. I do want to have some time to kind of talk about, I do have a calculator that I want to kind of walk through this and kind of help you understand how to get some baseline pricing. But I want to take a pause here real quickly, talking about this kind of whole conversation around. But have you ever gotten on calls with brands? Like how has that gone?
I've recently got on call with 3 brands. The call was really well. So the brand I was on call last week, instead of we just discussing the price and stuff, I was getting them more into the kind of mindset of like, look, what are the maximum ROI you can get working with me? But also I was kind of giving them insight, like, look, these are the format works really well. These are the conversion rates you will get. These are the like a type of content works well. So I was trying to guide them, or more like educate them, because I worked on a similar brand previously with a similar price point they had. So it was more like a consulting call as opposed to pitch, which was really incredible, because walking out of that call, even though that deal didn't close, we were able to build a really good kind of relationship. So it was like, okay, like if nothing works out, like at least we had a great chat and then we'll come back. So yes, I started doing that after your suggestion on PTYA. Before that, I would just send an email. Oh, I had a VA as well, would do that. But working with the VA was a nightmare, because 90% of the conversation they had, I lost the deal. So I had to get rid of them, because I just realized I'm losing a lot of money by having someone instead of being helped. It was a bit of a problem. So yeah, from past 2 weeks, I've done that, and it's been really, really good. Some brands, they say like, no, just send me the price, and like, okay, fine. Some would say like, let's get on the call. But I would say like 80% of brands are really excited that I'm invested in them. And one of the comments I had from the brand I'm working with is like, it's so amazing when creators actually spend and come up with the ideas to amplify my kind of promotion. So I'm definitely going to be pitching you for future deals as well. Like, awesome.
That's amazing. I have 3 quick comments around all that. So number one, you made a comment around helping them understand like what the conversions were going to be like. And I just want to like flag that conversions is only 1 out of 3 of the campaign goals that a brand will have. There are some brands who won't care at all about conversions, and really what they care about is, let's say, brand awareness. Or what they care about is like repurposing your content. And so just one quick tip there I would say is like, don't automatically assume that the only thing a brand reaching out is going to care about, or a brand that you're talking with, don't assume that it's conversions, right? A lot of brands do care about conversions, obviously, but if you lead with that, like, oh, look at how many sales I drove, or leads I drove, or signups, or whatever that I drove, some brands will be like, you know what, we're in the UK, or we're in the US, but we're launching in the UK. We want to work with you. Like, it's not really about conversions for us. It's just kind of spreading the word about our brand name, right? So you just want to make sure that you're speaking their language. And so that's why before you lead with that, just ask them, what are you trying to get out of this? Right? Because they may say brand awareness, and then you kind of want to just very quickly pivot that conversation to be like how you have, let's say, helped other brands achieve those kind of high level objectives. That's number one. Just a really, really important point here at this juncture in your conversation with the brands is that even though this particular deal didn't work out, you did the education, you positioned yourself as a consultant, like you said, don't just wait for them to come back to you when they have an opportunity that's ready for you, right? Your job now is to essentially put them into your sponsorship wheel, right? Which is your way that you track all these partnerships. And you should be nurturing this brand at least once a month, in my view, for a brand that you went on a call with, you did some education. And it can be something as simple as, hey, I just saw this article in Adweek or Digiday and thought of you. Like, hope all's well. Like, let's chat, this type of idea. And so once a month, you're just nurturing them. You're sending them, you're providing value. You're not just following up and being like, hey, just wanted to check in. Do you have any deals for me? Like, that's not what you want to do. You want to provide value each time that you're reaching out. Right. And so that was just like the second note that I would give is like, make sure that this becomes part of your routine. You are running a business here. right? And so part of running a business is having a sales pipeline, having a client pipeline. And so this should be you should be having days throughout the month where you just go out and you keep nurturing these relationships. Because again, what happens? Like they're talking with lots and lots of people, and it's you staying on their radar, staying at top of mind. Because they may be working with 100 different or 500 different creators in a given month or in a given quarter. So it's really, really important that you nurture that. The third thing I would say, I know that having a VA seemed to be more of a hindrance for you than something that would be helpful. If I could give one suggestion of how you could potentially change that flow up to be something that would not be disruptive, is that you could orchestrate a handoff with the VA where you intervene once the conversation gets into a little bit more advanced. So maybe the VA, the only thing that they're doing is the initial outreach or the initial response. Let's say there's an inbound inquiry and they do a little bit of like light qualification, right? They ask about the scope of work, they ask about the deliverables, whatever it is, you can kind of massage that process. Yeah. But then the moment that a brand responds with that additional context, your VA says, okay, just tagging, I'm tagging Gaurav into this. He'd love to learn more, jump on a call, this type of thing. Again, just providing some perspective here that VAs, I think, can still be pretty helpful. It's just a matter of like where you intervene.
No, that's really helpful. Thank you. Yeah. Because in the past I left them to a level which I shouldn't have, and then it just didn't work out. And then there was like a 2 months, there was like around 10-15 brand reached out and there was nothing close. And I was traveling a lot at that time. I was like, okay, this is not cool. So I was like, you come back, you just don't think much and you're like, okay. So that's really cool. Thank you.
By the way, if you want me to help you personally with your next sponsorship negotiation, you can book a public coaching call like this and potentially appear in a future video by clicking the link in the description.
Okay, so this is a sponsorship pricing calculator that I have spent so much time developing for my course Brand Deal Wizard. Just to quickly explain how it works, I remember I mentioned how like pricing is very much an art and a science, right? And how important it is to ascertain the goal of the brand. Well, the reason that it's so critical is that you're actually keying your pricing based on the brand's goal. Mm-hmm. Okay, so like the very first thing that you're going to do is we're under the like Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, blog, podcast kind of category right now, because those are all impressions based, right? If you look at the back end of your analytics, you see like, oh, how many impressions did this post get? So that's why we're looking at this in here. And so what I have here, these little numbers that you're seeing here, is that roughly what I say is that if it's a conversion campaign, you're going to be looking at roughly a $30 CPM, right? A $30 per 1,000 impressions. That's roughly what a brand is going to want to pay for a conversion focused campaign. However, contrast that with a brand awareness campaign. Those are the campaigns where you're going to be able to charge a lot more. Your negotiating leverage is going to be so much higher. And that's closer to, let's say, $100 CPM, because remember, you're creating custom content for this brand. It's a brand awareness campaign. They're just trying to spread the word. They're trying to get grassroots support. And so your negotiating leverage in those, your ability to like really push the envelope there is greatly increased. And so then there's a couple different flags that you want to consider here. So for example, if it's on Instagram, is it going to be a video? Is it going to be a photo? Like understanding the medium, because videos require a lot more effort than photo, right? If it's just like a random, or like a simple to use photo carousel. And then this figure here is your average impressions per post, not your average impressions for your overall account. Okay. Not your, because this is what some people do. This is how many impressions I got over the last 30 days. I'm just going to divide that by 30. That's not useful and that's not helpful, because you're going to have outliers, right? And so what's most important is that you want to look at, let's say, your last 10 posts and take the average impressions of the last 10 or 15 posts, removing outliers. So if you had a reel go viral or something like that, you want to exclude that, because you want a conservative assumption, a baseline of like, if this brand were to hire you and you made a new post for them, roughly how is it going to perform? That's what we're looking for here. Okay. Do you have are you able to pull up one of your recent Instagram posts and tell me like what the average, what the impressions were on that?
Sure. 1 second. So the one I did on was a Friday was 160,000, but then the was before was 2 million, and then before that was 1.2 million. Before that was 700K.
So first of all, you're killing it. Like, let's just be clear here. Let me get some cha-chings in the chat for that. You're killing it on Instagram. And so it's a little bit all over the map, right? Roughly, you know, let's say just conservatively, it's a couple 100,000 impressions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's conservatively assume that, right? So let's assume that this is going to be a conversion focused campaign and we're let's say it's 300,000 impressions. Okay, for this. The last and most important flag here is understanding the usage rights and the exclusivity. Okay, so let's say that the brand wants a month of exclusivity where you cannot talk. Let's say it's Indeed, right? The job, site. Let's say that you cannot work with Monster Jobs or, any of the Glassdoor or any of these other tools for, 3 months or whatever, or a month. Let's just say a month, right? Then that is the month here. That's the number we're going to put in there. And so just for the content creation and 1 month of exclusivity for a conversion focused campaign, meaning that how many people actually sign up to Indeed for that. That's what that partnership would be. I'm seeing a number conservatively here of $14,850.
I'm massively undercharging.
Yeah, and if the campaign goal type changed, let's say that, hey, we want to get your content to run for ads, then that goes up a lot. And again, this is not even including paid media. So there's all these tabs here that help you understand, like, how you can be providing, the different, levers that you can have, whether it's paid media, whether it's exclusivity. And so again, because you have this baseline of like a very, very, you have a ton of eyeballs on your content right now. Yeah. Right. You have to be using that as a baseline. And I remember I said, it's an art and a science. It's going to depend on every deal, every brand, every agency. But like I've oftentimes found that like having this calculator is very helpful, even just directionally, to help you understand like roughly what I should be charging for certain partnerships like this. And remember, the biggest unlock when it comes to like, setting your pricing is when the brand emails you and they say, how much is it going to be for one Instagram post and one set of stories, which is like a pretty typical scope of work for an Instagrammer, let's say. What you should never do is just spit back one number. Oh, it's going to be 33K. That's what most creators do. Oh, it's going to be 30K, 33K, whatever. They just spit back one number. You have to be providing them multiple packages that they didn't even ask for. Because remember, going back to this whole exercise around how they're not just reaching out to you. They're reaching out to probably 10 other creators because they want to get a certain amount of pieces of content. And so you actually reaching out and saying, when you respond, you say, hey, I know you only asked me for like what my rate was for like one Instagram post, but here is packages 1 through 5. Package 1 is going to be, remember you asked for paid rights in package 1? Well, you know what? I'm going to give you one Instagram post and one Instagram story in package 1, but I'm not going to give you paid rights. That's the totally stripped down version in package 1. And that one's going to be whatever it is, 10K, 15K, whatever it is. Package 2, I'll give you everything you asked for, right? One Instagram post, one story. Then I'll give you the paid media rights, the exclusivity, like whatever you're asking for. And then package 3, I'm going to give you actually 2 Instagram posts now. 2 stories. Package 4, I'm going to give you 3, and I'm going to throw in a newsletter blast because I've got 70K newsletter subscribers. Package 5, I'm going to do a YouTube or a TikTok or whatever, right? And so now what they realize all of a sudden is, number one, they may not have even known that you had these other platforms or assets that you could amplify the campaign to. But now they realize, we can actually hire this creator and we don't have to go out there and hire these 2 or 3 other creators. Less email threads, less contracts. It's just, we just deal with this one person. And guess what you did? You just upsold that and basically kind of stole the budget away from those other creators that they were planning on working with, right? And so this is just like a very, very critical insight here when you're negotiating.
Wow, that's mind blowing. I would say the rates difference and stuff. But also like, just throwing them a lot of different avenues and throwing them different ideas. How do you make them branch within your ecosystem is such a cool idea. It's almost like an Apple strategy. Like you get them on board, you try to make them leverage different avenues, and this, oh yeah, that's really cool. I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, the email. I started leveraging the email news blast, and suddenly the brands are like more willing to work. I'm like, oh, why I was not doing that before.
Yeah, I mean, and the beautiful part about this understanding that it's like, okay, what do I have in my arsenal to offer to the brand? The reason that that's so critical is that it'll also help you realize like, oh, I actually need a podcast or something like that, right? Like there are other avenues that I'm not doing right now that I probably should be able to offer to brands. That's one of the reasons, candidly, that I started a podcast. I've been a creator since 2009, and I never had a true podcast really. And I launched one in earnest just a couple months ago because for example, on the topic of podcasts, like it is a normal thing to have 3, 4, 5 different ad integrations in a podcast. That does not exist in pretty much any other content format. You're never going to see multiple brands sponsored in an Instagram post or a TikTok or a YouTube video or something like that. But in a podcast, it's totally normalized. And so being able to say, if you do not have inventory elsewhere in your business with the newsletter or the Instagrams or the TikToks or whatever, like you got a very stacked production schedule or calendar, being able to say, I actually have this other asset here that you can also utilize. And it's just another thing to be able to offer in those packages.
I love that. Yeah, definitely. Podcast is something on a list for like forever, and you keep on pushing back. It's one of those things you got to get going. And before that, it's like a mountain and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I was sitting here looking at my business. I'm doing so many different things, the courses and the coaching and all the content, my business with my wife and like so many things. And I was like, am I really going to add a podcast onto my plate? Like, am I seriously going to do this? But again, like you have to go back to first principles. You have to go back and think, what are my objectives? What's my North Star in this business? You have like a very clear one, right? Helping you to find and land the job that makes you happy and pays you more. Like that is a very clear North Star to me. And so, if I look at the persona of your audience, there's probably a lot of people who would listen to your podcast on their commute, on their way to work, on the train, in their car, something like this. If they're someone who wants to, level up in their career or get a promotion or find a new job, like that's a podcast that they would probably listen to. They probably aren't going to pull up your Instagram or your TikToks and even YouTube and like listen to those in the car. They're not going to do that. Right. And so it's like, that's why, in my opinion, I would even probably tackle like a podcast prior to YouTube. I mean, I know you just did B2IA and Ali, you'll probably kill me if I say that, but like, just again, like, yes, if you had all the resources in the world and you could hire a team and they could help you and all, yeah, you should do everything. You should do YouTube, you should do podcasts. But if it was me, I would probably be focusing on a podcast, just specifically given the persona of the audience you're speaking to.
No, you're absolutely right. So many people have asked me like, when are you launching your podcast? Like I want to listen more on this topic deeply. And that's the reason I moved from making a TikTok, making like a Reels to Carousel, because people are like, yeah, the 30-second video doesn't do the justice because I want to know more. They've been asking, the biggest request I get is like, make a longer form content. I'm like, okay, I really need to find a time, just get it all together and just deliver that, because you're absolutely right. People really want to listen longer form, because this is a topic you can't have a 20-second tip. It just doesn't work like that. So that's been like a really eye-opening. And what your suggestion of podcast was, again, reminding me I should just do it.
The other thing too is that on the topic of sponsorships, is that it opens up so many unique avenues for you. Like imagine being able to pitch in a sponsorship package that you'd be willing to interview the VP of marketing from Indeed on your podcast.
Yeah.
That's part of the sponsorship, is like they can come in and talk about this new product, this new feature that they have or something like that. You know how excited brands get about stuff like that? They share that around to the office and all internally, like, oh, we were on, this podcast. It was awesome. This type of thing. So like, to me, it's a no-brainer.
No, that's really cool insight. Thank you, Justin. One thing I wanted to ask, like, how do you push back on pricing when the brand is being too kind of like, they're like, no, this is what we're going to do. Like, there's no way we can move forward. But like, let's say I usually like charge, I would say between 4 to 5K, knowing that I was charging way below what I should be. And then for me, it's like, how do I, like, let's say I put the price up to, let's say 10K to begin with, and the brand's like, no, there's no way we're going to do it. How do you find the right approach to push back without losing it? All the same time, it's going to be like a mentally big shift for me going from 5 to 10, and then going from 10 to 15 to 20, because like, I would have never imagined I could charge because one brand, I did a deal, they got 4.5 million impression and views, and that just paid me. I should have charged way more. And then I was like, okay, how do I bring myself to politely push back? Is there any like a framing or whatever works? Would be amazing to know. Yeah.
You know, one of the most important things that I teach around negotiation strategy is the concept of creativity, right? It's thinking, how can I understand what the sensitivities of the brand is in this particular situation? Because the brand oftentimes cares about other non-monetary things that you're not going to realize until you actually ask them. And so I actually want to share some quick examples here that might be helpful as we work through this. So what if the brand won't come up any higher on their offer, right? This is a very common situation. And so remember we talked about your strong BATNA. And so this is where that comes in, right? And you could say something like, thanks for sharing this context. We are absolutely motivated to find a way to make this work. Although given our other partnership commitments this quarter, X dollars, which is what I quoted you, is going to be the required investment. Alternatively, if you would be open to reducing the deliverables to, let's say, 1 post and confining the exclusivity term to, let's say, 30 days, that will allow us to optimize our production calendar and make this work for X minus Y, which is the rate that they're wanting to pay, right? And so what you're doing is you're illustrating a couple things. Your professionalism. Wow, this creator has a production calendar, and there's a lot of demand for them right now. Like, okay, that's interesting. But also, you're pulling something off the table. You're not just conceding and giving up nothing, because this is what a lot of creators do. They just say, "Oh, the brand says all I have is 5K." When you quoted 10K, and you're like, "Okay, I guess I'll do it for 5K," and you don't concede anything, and that's very, very dangerous, because the next time that they come back to you, they're just going to assume that you're going to be doing, you have eroded your pricing leverage there, and they're no longer going to be willing to ever offer you that higher amount. But in this situation, you're showing them that, like, I'm willing to concede on the price, but there's some dynamics of the deal that have to change so that you still have that 10K pricing power on future partnerships. On the topic of professionalism, it's like, even if you are, let's say, 2 or 3x the cost of another creator, when you send emails like this and when you conduct yourself in that manner, it just seems like the campaign's going to go better with you. So even though you're more expensive, it just seems like this creator knows what they're doing. Like they're going to help us accomplish what we're looking to. Whatever our objective is, let's just pay them. Let's just hire them. It just seems like it's going to go better. Right. And so, like, honestly, at the end, I ran an agency for 7 years, man. I can't even tell you how many times we hired an influencer that was more expensive because we'd worked with them in the past. We knew that if we hired them, it was going to go well. They weren't going to give us a bunch of flack. You know, we wouldn't going to have to like micromanage them. Like, they were just going to do it. And like, we just didn't have time to like deal with all the drama honestly, so a lot of creators, it's like, a lot of creators have drama, right? And it's just like pulling teeth, getting every little aspect of the campaign from them. So this is honestly at the core, this is what I teach, dude. This is the course, the coaching, like it's about professionalizing yourself. It's like treating this stuff that you're doing on the internet as a business, because it is. You're deriving income from this, and you have to act accordingly.
That's super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think the only thing that we really haven't touched on today, which is a very, very critical part of doing deals like this, is just the analysis phase, right? Which is providing both quantitative and qualitative insights to the brand at the end of the campaign, not just screenshots. Because a lot will just say, hey, send us your screenshots, right? Of like your insights and all this stuff. And like, that may be what they're asking for, but remember, you're a professional creator, right? And so what you're going to do is you're going to put together what I call a post-campaign report. Okay. And you're going to provide to them not just the insights, but yeah, that's important, but that's table stakes. You're also going to provide to them qualitative insights. So for example, my wife and I recently did a partnership with Puss in Boots and Peacock Plus, which is like a streaming platform, right? And they wanted to promote that the movie was now streaming on Peacock Plus. That was like to watch it with your family. This is the kind of the goal. We asked them the goal. They said the goal is to get more people to stream the movie on Peacock Plus. Number one, how are we going to know whether people sign up for Peacock Plus or stream the movie? We don't have access to that information, to those metrics. We're never going to be able to know, right? But that's what they said the goal was. And so what we do have, though, is that when we posted the Instagram reel, we had hundreds of people in the comments saying, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm watching it with my family right now. Or, oh my God, I just downloaded Peacock Plus to watch it with my family for movie night. And so you know what we did? We screenshotted a heck of a lot of those comments and we put it in our post-campaign report. And so we had a page that said, what was the goal? The goal was to get more families to watch Puss in Boots on Peacock Plus. And then the next page said results. And it was just like a ton of screenshots of people saying, we watched the movie, we watched the movie, we watched the movie. Right. And so now that brand or that agency is able to forward that post-campaign report to their client, who is Peacock Plus, and saying, hey, look, we accomplished what we set out to do. And so this whole idea of like closing the loop of showing the brand or the agency that, hey, the thing that we set out to do that you paid me for, we actually accomplished it. And this is the thing that's going to get you hired over and over again, because they're going to realize like, okay, whenever we go and we hire this creator, they are able to knock it out of the park for us.
No, that's really helpful. Just having like a system which you can kind of plug in every time you do a campaign, you fill in those things, slide, and just send over with, again, super professional post-campaign review or feedback, whatever. That's super cool.
Exactly. Yeah. And I have a ton of templates that I've developed, like to make it really easy for students to join my course. And so the point is that it becomes part of your system. It becomes part of your routine. Like this is just something I do every time that I work with a brand, right? I put the proposal together. I execute the partnership. I do it flawlessly. And then I submit the post-campaign report, which, by the way, critically, another thing that the post-campaign report has is your future campaign proposal in there. So you say, here is what I'm proposing we do for the next partnership. Because I got a bunch of comments of people saying like, oh, what other movies do they have on Peacock Plus? Oh, well, I can do a reel talking about, they don't just have family movies. They have all these thrillers and adult films and, like R-rated, like horror films and like whatever, right? They have stuff not just for families, but also for, date night in for you and your partner or something, right? And so like, but that again, you see how that's like a direct response. You saw that in a comment that you got is like, oh, I wish you would have talked about this feature or this benefit a little bit more. And then you use that as fodder to pitch the next idea. You don't just let this opportunity languish. You just finish the deal, you get paid, and then you literally never talk to the brand. That's what a lot of creators do, right? It's like, no, you have to keep this wheel spinning and pitch them on the next idea.
No, I've done that. I've worked with so many big brands and I never contacted them. HubSpot, Indeed, so many. And I was like, damn, I should have been in touch with them to kind of pitch for the future campaigns and stuff, because over the campaign worked really, really well. Some of the videos got like 5-6 million views and stuff like that. Like ultimate, like post campaign, kind of like a template and stuff. Yeah, that is really, really cool and eye opening for me.
Can I give you a something that will make you feel a lot better, which is that you can still go back to them and send them a post-campaign report, even though the campaign was a year ago or 6 months ago or 2 years ago. It doesn't matter. You could say Throwback Thursday, Flashback Friday, whatever. You say, I was just thinking about this partnership that we did 6 months ago or a year ago. And I thought it was so awesome. I was so happy to do it. I just wanted to provide you some updated metrics of how this campaign has performed since we last spoke. In the campaign window, it got 200,000 views. Now it has 500,000 views or something like that. And here's some other insights. Here's what we could do on the next campaign. So it's a reason to reach out. If you're able to share updated metrics and there's actually a meaningful increase, that's something they're going to forward around to their boss and be like, oh, by the way, like this thing continued to to do well, we should actually think about hiring this creator again. So people always ask me like, how long is too long ago to do a PCR? And I say never. Like 20 years ago is fine. Send a PCR.
No, that's super cool. Like I did a lot of campaign like 6-7 months. I was thinking, it's too late, but this is like, I'm gonna write a report over the weekend and just go through it, because I was thinking like doing like a Notion document of all the brands I worked with and the brands I want to work in the future and stuff like that. So no, that's amazing. Quick question, like because on a pricing side, when it comes to like a Instagram, but when you look at the TikTok, when we look at the newsletter, would you use similar sort of matrix, or it has a very different kind of matrix for each platforms?
That is also the reason that I have broken out the different platforms. YouTube and TikTok is a little bit different because those are views based primarily, right? So, you do have impressions metrics on YouTube, but most brands aren't looking at that. They're looking at how many views did the video get, right? Similarly on TikTok, like how many views did the TikTok get? And so the difference is that the metric here, the baseline, it's the same, but it's a different metric. It's CPV now, cost per view, instead of cost per 1,000 impressions. So with conversion, you're looking at, let's say, a 3-cent CPV contrasted with a $30 CPM for Instagram, but it's the same. It's just a different metric because based on what the goal is, or based on what the platform is. And similarly for a newsletter, typically what you're going to look at is like opens, right? Like how many people are actually opening this, not just how many people you have on your list, but like how many people are actually opening it.
So like $0 to $10 for
10 cents. So like it would be like zero.
Mine is like around
0 to 10 cents, like cost CPO, basically cost per open.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, it's like almost like a 50% open rate on the newsletter.
Great.
So yeah, that's really helpful.
That's
Thank
huge,
you.
man.
By the way, your newsletters are also ton of value. So I just feel like you're providing so much value. I don't know how to explain. It's like so when it comes to like booking a call or buying a course, it's almost like you trust so much, because it's like, and I see like a lot of creators like they hold back, but the thing is like, even if you provide the value, 99% of people are not going to apply it. So say it again on a different format and say it as stuff, and it just builds so much credibility. So thank you so much for that. Like last question, where are you thinking of planning like launch a course or something like that where you go through everything in detail? What I'll do, I'll apply all the strategies and I'll keep you posted, of course, like how it goes and stuff. And then like any other stuff like coming in the future, I'll be interested to know whether I can work with you or not, because it's just super fun to be surrounded by people who are so passionate about these things. Usually in a creator side, you just feel like people just don't want to share. So it's so nice to kind of like guys, I'm not going to steal your brand deal. It's just like it's different, but it's so funny. Yeah.
Dude, I appreciate that so much. Honestly, that means so much to me because I have the same philosophy as you, is like rising tides float all boats. Like there is billions and billions of dollars being spent on the internet. Like I always joke, like if Indeed hires another creator to like do a partnership, you should be jumping for joy, because that means that Indeed needs to find 20 other people just like that creator that they just partnered with. So the next person that they're going to try and find is you, right? And so like creators always get jealous, like, oh man, that person doesn't even use Indeed. I knew they use Monster Jobs to get their no. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, right? It's like they get jealous, and it's like, don't get jealous. Like everyone, there's money for everyone to go around. Don't worry. But I appreciate that so much. I honestly, like, I do not care if, like you said, 99% of people that follow me ever pay me. I don't, there's always going to be people who, like you, who want to pay me for more detailed advice and coaching and support. So like there's absolutely no reason to hold back, because I also do feel that this information needs to be out there. People need to be able to advocate for themselves, because so many people are undercharging and not really realizing their worth. So appreciate that so much, man.
No, thank you so much. I think I must have missed out more than $100,000 over the past, I would say, year on my sponsorship. So I love the fact that so much action I can take and make such a big impact on a business. So that $500 has, I don't know, 1,000 million X ROI.
Awesome. I'm gonna get that testimonial from you. A million ROI, million X ROI on the investment. So, all right, man. Thanks again.
Now, it's all good and well knowing about the common pricing mistakes, but to actually avoid them, you need to see what they look like during an actual conversation with the brand. So watch this video where I look at the entire email exchange between brand and creators so you know what to look out for and how to implement these pricing strategies on your next deal.